The celestial pattern. Dr. Elena Rice brushed away centuries of dust from the stone surface, revealing yet another symbol that matched her growing collection. The hot Peruvian sun beat down on her back as she carefully photographed and documented her find. This remote temple, hidden deep in the Andes Mountains, was the seventh site where she discovered the same peculiar geometric patterns. "Dr. Rice, you need to see this," called her assistant, Miguel, from the other side of the chamber. "We found another chamber below. The entire ceiling is covered with these symbols." Elena descended through the narrow opening, her headlamp illuminating what the darkness had concealed for millennia. Her breath caught in her throat. Unlike the scattered symbols above, here they formed a cohesive whole, a perfect circular pattern with interconnected lines and geometric shapes that radiated from a central point. "My God," she whispered, her voice echoing in the ancient chamber. "It's a map." For 3 years, Elena had tracked these symbols across continents, finding them embedded in structures separated by thousands of miles and built by civilizations that supposedly never made contact. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, submerged ruins off the coast of Japan, caves in South Africa, and now here in Peru. The mainstream archaeological community had dismissed her theory of a connected global prehistoric civilization as career suicide, but the evidence before her eyes couldn't be denied. Back at her university office in Mexico City, Elena spread the photographs across her desk, connecting them with red string on her cluttered wall. The pattern was unmistakable now, not just a map of Earth, but something far more profound. Her phone rang, breaking her concentration. "Dr. Reyes, this is Dr. Jian Chen from the Beijing Astronomical Observatory." Elena frowned. She'd never heard of him. "How can I help you, Dr. Chen?" "I believe we're working on the same puzzle," he said. "Your recent paper on recurring prehistoric symbols caught my attention. The patterns you've documented, they're not just archaeological curiosities. They're astronomical coordinates." 2 weeks later, Elena stood in Dr. Chen's observatory, staring at a holographic projection of the night sky. Jian was brilliant, if somewhat socially awkward, his eyes lighting up only when discussing the cosmos. "If we input the complete pattern from your sites," Jian explained, manipulating the projection with graceful hand movements, "and account for stellar drift over the past 12,000 years. There." The projection shifted, stars realigning to positions they would have held millennia ago. The pattern from the ruins now perfectly overlaid a specific region of space. At the center was a star system that appeared unremarkable. "That's KIC 8,462,852, Jan said, excitement evident in his voice. "Astronomers have been puzzled by it for decades. It exhibits unusual light fluctuations that cannot be explained by natural phenomena." "You're saying ancient humans knew about this star and found it important enough to mark in stone across the entire planet?" Elena asked, skepticism edging her voice despite the evidence before her eyes. "Not just that." John enlarged the projection. "According to my calculations, something is approaching from that direction. Something massive enough to distort space-time in measurable ways." The door to the observatory opened abruptly. A man in a crisp military uniform entered, flanked by 2 others in dark suits. "Dr. Rice, Dr. Chen. I'm Commander Marcus Wells, United Nations Space Defense Initiative." He flashed credentials briefly. "We need to discuss your work immediately." Over the next hours, in a secure conference room, Commander Wells revealed what governments around the world had been hiding. The ancient sites containing Elena's symbols had begun emitting energy signatures unlike anything seen before. Dormant for millennia, they had simultaneously activated 3 months ago. "We believe it's responding to whatever is approaching from KIC 8,462,852, Wells explained. "And we need your expertise to understand what we're facing." Elena studied the commander. He was forthright, with intelligent eyes and the bearing of someone accustomed to crisis. Despite her natural distrust of military intervention in scientific matters, she sensed his genuine concern. "Commander," she said slowly, "these sites were built by people who somehow possessed knowledge they shouldn't have had. They left us a message, a warning, perhaps meant to be understood when the time was right." "And you think that time is now?" Wells asked. "The sites activating simultaneously after thousands of years can't be coincidence," Jan interjected. "According to my projections, whatever is approaching will reach our solar system within 6 months." 3 months later, Alina found herself aboard the U.S. Prometheus, a specialized research vessel floating above the mid-Atlantic ridge. Sonar had detected an enormous structure 2 miles below the surface, at the precise coordinates indicated by the intersection of lines from 4 different ancient sites. The submersible descended through the crushing darkness. Alina, Jan, and Commander Wells crowded into the observation deck. Their lights illuminated what appeared to be a massive dome, constructed of a material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. "It's perfectly preserved," Alina whispered, awe overwhelming her scientific detachment. "This shouldn't be possible." As they approached, a section of the dome began to glow with the same symbols Alina had documented globally. A beam of light shot from the structure, enveloping their submersible. Systems flickered, and for a terrifying moment, Alina thought they would fail. Instead, an opening appeared in the dome's surface. "It's inviting us in," Jan said. Inside the dome was a dry chamber that defied all logic. The air was breathable, the temperature comfortable. At the center stood a crystalline structure that pulsed with soft blue light. "This technology is beyond anything we possess," Wells said, his typical confidence wavering. Alina approached the crystal, drawn by an inexplicable familiarity. When she touched its surface, her consciousness expanded beyond the confines of her body. Information flooded her mind, not as data but as memories, as if she were remembering rather than learning. She saw Earth as it had been 12,000 years ago, a world of advanced cities built in harmony with nature. She saw beings that looked human yet subtly different, working alongside non-human entities, and she saw what had forced them to hide: massive entities that consumed worlds, that had nearly eradicated the solar system before being driven back. When the vision ended, Alina collapsed to her knees, gasping. "Alina!" John rushed to her side. "What happened?" "We were never alone," she whispered, her voice shaking. "And they're coming back." The journey back to the surface was silent, each lost in their thoughts. By the time they reached Washington, D.C. for an emergency briefing, similar structures had been discovered in the Arctic, the Gobi Desert, and beneath the Amazon rainforest. At the United Nations Security Council, Alina stood before world leaders, the retrieved crystal secured in a specialized container beside her. The weight of human history, the true history, rested on her shoulders. "The data contained in this artifact has been verified by independent research teams," Alina explained, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Approximately 12,000 years ago, Earth was home to an advanced human civilization with technology far beyond our current capabilities. They were not alone in the cosmos." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Secretary General leaned forward. "Are you suggesting ancient aliens, Dr. Reyes?" "No," Alina replied firmly. "I'm telling you that humans are far older and more advanced than we've believed. The beings who built these structures were our ancestors, but they were not alone. They had allies and enemies. Among the stars, the crystal projected images above the assembly. Great cities with technology that seemed to blend seamlessly with nature, spacecraft of organic design, and finally, massive shadow-like entities consuming entire planets. They called them the Void Heralds," Alina continued. "They came from the darkness between galaxies, consuming worlds and stars to fuel their expansion. Our ancestors fought alongside a coalition of other species and managed to drive them back, but at terrible cost. Their civilization was decimated." Commander Wells stepped forward. The few survivors knew the heralds would return. They didn't have the numbers to rebuild their civilization, but they created a contingency plan. Us. What does that mean? Demanded the Russian representative. It means, Jan explained, that they seeded the planet with a more primitive version of themselves. Us, protected by a network of dormant defense installations. The symbols at ancient sites were markers, reminders placed so that when the heralds returned, we would find our way back to this knowledge. Elena took a deep breath. According to the data in the crystal, the Void Heralds have awakened again. The approaching object from KIC 8,462,852 is their vanguard. We have less than 3 months before they reach Earth. The chamber erupted in chaos as the implications sank in. When order was finally restored, the Chinese premier asked the question on everyone's mind. How can we possibly defend against something that destroyed an advanced civilization far beyond our own? Elena glanced at John and Wells before answering. The defense network still exists, dormant beneath our feet and in our solar system. And certain humans, approximately 1 in 10,000, carry genetic markers that can activate and control this technology. Our ancestors planned for this moment. They left us the tools we need. As she finished speaking, the crystal pulsed with blue light, projecting a galactic map above the assembly. Hundreds of points illuminated across Earth and the solar system, a defensive grid waiting to be awakened. The choice before us is simple, Elena said, her voice resonating through the silent chamber. Continue fighting among ourselves and face extinction, or unite as our ancestors intended and take our place among the stars. The Guardian Protocol. Humanity's reaction to existential threat was predictably chaotic. Nations scrambled to secure ancient sites within their borders. Military forces worldwide mobilized. Religious leaders proclaimed everything from apocalypse to rapture. Financial markets collapsed, then stabilized as the realization set in. Money meant nothing in the face of extinction. Yet beneath the chaos, something remarkable emerged. Purpose. A singular focus that transcended borders, ideologies, and old hatreds. Elena watched the latest news reports from a hastily established Sentinel command beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility had been constructed in the 1960s to withstand nuclear war and now served as headquarters for humanity's defense preparations. The UN Security Council has unanimously approved the Sentinel Accord, announced the news anchor, granting unprecedented authority to the international coalition led by Commander Marcus Wells. All nations have agreed to pool military resources and scientific expertise in anticipation of what is now being called the Void Herald threat. Elena turned away from the screen. In the month since her presentation to the UN, she had scarcely slept, working constantly to decipher more information from the crystal and the other artifacts recovered from ancient installations worldwide. You should rest, Giant said, entering the laboratory with 2 cups of coffee. Dark circles underlined his eyes, evidence of his own exhaustion. The heralds won't rest, Elena replied, accepting the coffee gratefully. Besides, I'm making progress. Look at this. She gestured to her workstation, where a holographic projection displayed a double helix DNA strand with certain sections highlighted. These genetic markers occur in approximately 0.01% of the global population. They're not random mutations. They're engineered access keys. She manipulated the projection, expanding a particular section. Our ancestors built the defense network to recognize these specific genetic signatures. Only those carrying them can fully activate the installations. How many have we found so far? John asked. 217 individuals globally, came Commander Wells' voice as he entered the lab. His uniform was crisp despite the late hour, but the weight of responsibility showed in his bearing. Testing continues, but we're prioritizing those with scientific or military backgrounds. It's not enough, Elena said, frustration evident in her voice. The crystal indicates we need at least 1,000 to fully activate the primary defense grid. Wells nodded grimly. We'll find them. Meanwhile, The excavation team at the Mariana Trench installation has made a breakthrough. They've accessed what appears to be a command center. The Mariana Trench installation had proven to be the largest of the ancient facilities, extending miles beneath the ocean floor. Initial explorations had revealed vast chambers containing technology that defied modern understanding, machines that operated without apparent power sources, interfaces that responded to thought rather than touch. "Show me," Elena demanded. Wells activated a tablet, displaying footage from the undersea facility. The camera panned across a cavernous circular room, its walls lined with crystalline panels, similar to the artifacts they'd recovered. At the center stood a raised platform surrounding a device that resembled a spherical star map, galaxies and stars suspended in perfect miniature. "We believe this is the primary control node for the Earth-based defensive systems," Wells explained. "But we haven't been able to activate it. None of our identified genetic carriers have been compatible." Elena studied the footage intently, her eyes drawn to inscriptions surrounding the platform. "Those symbols, they're different from the others. More personal." She hesitated. "I think they're names. A memorial to those who fought and fell in the first conflict with the Heralds." "Can you translate them?" John asked. "I'm not sure I need to," Elena replied slowly. "I think I understand them already." The realization had been growing in her mind since her first contact with the crystal, an impossible familiarity with things she couldn't possibly know. 3 days later, Elena stood on the platform within the Mariana Command Center, surrounded by scientists, military personnel, and a handful of other identified genetic carriers. The journey to the facility had been long, the descent harrowing, but standing here, she felt an undeniable sense of homecoming. The latest astronomical data confirms the Void Herald Vanguard has entered the outer solar system, Jan reported, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "We have approximately 2 weeks before they reach Earth." Elena nodded, her focus on the spherical map before her. The other genetic carriers, a school teacher from Nigeria, a farmer from Brazil, a physicist from India, and others from across the globe, formed a circle around the platform as instructed by the information Elena had extracted from the crystal. "What exactly are we supposed to do?" asked Ejide, the Nigerian teacher, her voice betraying her nervousness. "Trust yourselves," Elena replied. "The knowledge is within us, placed there by our ancestors, dormant in our genes." She placed her hands on the sphere. The others followed suit. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, responding to their touch, the sphere illuminated, projecting a detailed map of the solar system throughout the chamber. Within the projection, they could see the approaching Void Heralds, massive shadow-like entities that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "It's working," Jan whispered in awe. Elena felt knowledge unfurling in her mind, ancient yet familiar. "The defense network consists of 3 layers," she said, her voice distant as she accessed information buried deep within her genetic memory. "The outer layer is a dispersed field of automated sentinels positioned throughout the Kuiper Belt. The middle layer is a gravitational disruption system anchored by installations on the Moon and Mars. The inner layer is Earth itself. Our planet is essentially one massive defense installation." Around the chamber, ancient machinery hummed to life. The crystalline panels along the walls pulsed with energy that seemed to flow into and through the genetic carriers. "Sentinels activating," Elena announced, watching as points of light appeared throughout the outer solar system on the projected map. "They'll intercept the Vanguard within 6 hours." The next days were a blur of activity as humanity watched the first engagement with the Void Heralds. The Sentinels, ancient automated craft that had lain dormant in the outer solar system for millennia, engaged the Herald Vanguard beyond Neptune's orbit. The battle was visible only through specialized astronomical instruments, appearing as flashes of strange energy and distortions in space-time. "The Sentinels are holding them back, but they won't stop them completely," Elena reported to the assembled UN Security Council via video link. "They were designed to slow the advance, to give us time to prepare the main defensive systems." "And are these systems ready?" asked the Secretary General. Almost, Elena replied. We've located 873 genetic carriers globally. We need more, but we're close to the threshold required for full activation. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Even with ancient technology beyond their comprehension, humanity's survival hinged on finding individuals with specific genetic markers. People who might be anywhere, unaware of their importance. We need a global call, said Commander Wells, stepping into view beside Elena. Every human on Earth needs to be tested. This transcends politics, borders, everything. The Secretary General nodded grimly. It will be done. As the outer defenses engaged the heralds, strange phenomena manifested across Earth. Ancient structures, long thought to be merely ceremonial, began emitting energy signatures. The northern lights expanded, visible even at the equator. Tectonic activity stabilized worldwide. It was as if the planet itself was waking, preparing. In the Mariana Command Center, Elena and the growing number of genetic carriers worked tirelessly, learning to interface with systems designed by their ancestors. The knowledge came easier now, flowing from the depths of genetic memory, as if it had always been there, waiting. The second defensive layer is online, Elena announced as the gravitational disruption system activated. On the projected map, they watched as distortions formed around Mars and the Moon, creating a web of altered spacetime that would further impede the Herald's advance. But the Void Heralds adapted quickly. Where the Sentinels destroyed one, two more appeared. They moved through the gravitational disruption fields with increasing efficiency, learning, evolving. They're coming through faster than projected, Jan reported, his fingers flying across interfaces that responded to his thoughts. The inner defense system needs to be ready within 48 hours. Commander Wells received the report stoically. How many carriers are we still missing? 62, Elena replied. Teams worldwide are working around the clock, but... An alarm blared, interrupting her. The projected map showed multiple Herald entities breaking through the gravitational barriers, accelerating toward Earth. They've adapted to the second layer already, Jan said, his voice tight with tension. Impact in less than 24 hours. Well straightened, decision made. We activate the inner defense with what we have. Now, Elena nodded, turning to address the gathered carriers. What we're about to attempt has never been done with an incomplete circuit. The system was designed for redundancy, meaning we can operate it without a full complement, but she hesitated. The strain on each of us will be significantly greater. What does that mean, exactly? Asked Ejide. It means, Elena said quietly, that some of us may not survive the activation process. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Then, one by one, the carriers stepped forward. Our ancestors gave everything to protect this world, said the farmer from Brazil. Can we do less? The activation began at dawn. 1,000 carriers spread across the globe at key installation points, with the primary group gathered in the Mariana Command Center. Elena led them through the complex initialization sequence, each carrier connecting to the ancient network through interfaces that responded to their unique genetic signatures. Energy surged through the global network, tangible and overwhelming. Several carriers collapsed immediately, the strain too great for their bodies to withstand. Others persevered, their faces contorted with effort as they channeled power that no human was ever meant to control alone. In orbit, astronauts aboard the International Space Station witnessed the planet transform. Massive structures rose from the ocean floors, mountain ranges shifted to reveal hidden installations, and a web of energy spread across the Earth's surface, connecting the ancient sites in a lattice of power. The Void Heralds, sensing the activation, accelerated their approach. The projection showed them as a wave of darkness, consuming everything in their path. In the command center, Elena stood at the heart of the network, her mind expanded beyond her physical form. Through the ancient system, she could sense every carrier globally, feel their determination and fear. More importantly, She could see the approaching heralds with perfect clarity, not just their physical manifestation, but their essence, ancient, hungry, implacable. "They're so old," she whispered, her voice carrying to all connected carriers worldwide. "They've consumed galaxies, civilizations beyond count. Can we stop them?" Jan asked, his consciousness brushing against hers through the network. Elena accessed the deepest layers of the defense system, understanding at last the true nature of what their ancestors had built. "Not with technology alone," she replied. "The final defense isn't a weapon, it's us. Our consciousness, unified and expanded through this network. We don't just operate the defense system, we are the defense system." As the first heralds entered Earth's atmosphere, Elena guided the carriers deeper into connection. Their individual minds merged into a collective intelligence far greater than the sum of its parts, accessing knowledge and power that had laid dormant in human DNA for millennia. Through their unified consciousness, they reached out, meeting the Void Heralds not with conventional weapons, but with focused will, the concentrated essence of humanity itself. Where the heralds were hunger and consumption, they offered creation and renewal. Where the heralds were cold void, they were vibrant life. Around the globe, witnesses described it as a battle between light and shadow played out across the sky. Darkness descended, only to be met by rising luminescence from the Earth itself. The conflict lasted hours, with neither side gaining clear advantage. In the command center, carriers collapsed one by one, their bodies giving out under the immense strain. Elena felt each loss like a physical blow, the network weakening with each fallen mind. Yet those who remained fought harder, drawing strength from desperation. When it seemed they could hold out no longer, something unexpected occurred. New consciousnesses joined the network, not from the identified carriers, but from ordinary humans worldwide. Millions of minds, then billions, instinctively reaching out, contributing their will to the defense of their world. Everyone. Elena gasped in realization. The genetic keys aren't just in the carriers. They're in all of us, just dormant, waiting to be awakened by need. The collective human consciousness swelled, overwhelming the Void Heralds with its intensity. The shadows retreated, driven back by humanity's unified will, until they disappeared beyond the solar system. As the immediate threat receded, the network gently disengaged, returning each mind to its individual state. In the command center, survivors helped each other to their feet, exhausted but triumphant. "We did it," Giant said, his voice hoarse. "But will they return?" Elena looked at the projection, which now showed the heralds retreating across interstellar space. "Yes," she said with certainty, "but we'll be ready. We understand now what our ancestors were trying to tell us, what they were preparing us for." Commander Wells joined them, surveying the chamber where ancient technology now hummed with renewed purpose. "And what's that, exactly?" Elena smiled, feeling the weight of millennia and the promise of the future simultaneously. "That we were never meant to remain confined to Earth. The defense network isn't just a shield, it's a foundation. Our ancestors left us everything we need to reclaim our place among the stars." In the months that followed, humanity began the monumental task of understanding and integrating the ancient technology. The genetic memory awakened during the crisis remained, providing insights into sciences beyond current understanding. Unified by their shared experience, nations cooperated in unprecedented ways. Standing atop a hill overlooking the recovered installation in Ireland, Elena watched as the first spacecraft constructed with the ancient knowledge prepared for its maiden voyage. Built not just with recovered technology, but with a new philosophy that balanced advancement with harmony, it represented humanity's first true step back to the stars. "Do you think they knew?" Jan asked, joining her on the hillside. "Our ancestors, when they created their backup plan, did they know what we would become?" Elena considered the question, watching the gleaming craft rise slowly into the evening sky. "I think they hoped," she replied. "They couldn't know for certain that we would rediscover our heritage in time, or that we would choose unity over division when it mattered most. But they gave us everything we needed, not just the technology, but the capacity to grow beyond it. As the new ship accelerated toward the stars, Alina felt a profound sense of continuity. Not an ending, but a reconnection. Humanity coming full circle to reclaim its cosmic legacy. The ancient warning had been heeded, and in answering it, they had discovered not just their past, but their future.